Good afternoon, everybody, or morning, wherever you are in the world and country. My name's Craig Mahaney. I'm the Executive Director for the UAS Cluster Initiative, which is the program that is really kind of supporting and spinning off this lab to technology presentation we're doing today that Jack's running for us is in charge for us. Just wanted to do a quick introduction about the cluster. So the UAS Cluster Initiative is a regional innovation cluster supported by SBA. And one of the things that we focus on are unmanned aerial systems, advanced air mobility, basically building those ecosystems, supporting entrepreneurs in that space. We're headquartered in Oklahoma City, but we have a reach that's far and wide outside of the state. A lot of the things that we do are within the state of Oklahoma. But that doesn't limit us to supporting companies and other folks outside of the state when the need arises. We really focus on a few different things. Access to capital is one of the areas we focus on, supporting founders and startups, helping them find the resources they need, and whether that's mentoring or capital, like I mentioned, and sometimes even technology. So that's where our technology transfer, technology licensing support comes in. And that's where this sort of deliverable that we're doing today is focused. So with that, I won't take up too much more time, and I'm looking forward to specifically the Counter UAS. A lot of conversations about Counter UAS going on. We have a Counter UAS Center of Excellence right here in Oklahoma at OSU. So good connection there. So interested to hear what everybody has to say, and look forward to all the questions and hopefully make some good connections. So I'll throw it back over to you, Jack.
Thank you, Craig. There, just admitting people here. So yeah, and so just to quickly, what we've set these events up for is, there's a lot of labs, there's a lot of technologies out there that are going on, and what we do is kind of center around a theme, and then and goes hunt out technologies to present. And most of the time, these are technologies you can build a, business, build a product line around and things like that. So these are kind of curated events, but it also displays the richness and the breadth of all the technologies that are coming out of the lab. As part of that, we also allow some time to and I'm calling up a display here to describe what goes on in the lab. And so for one featured, or one of our featured labs here is Naval Surface Warfare Center in Crane in Indiana, which is some people may or may not have heard much about, but it is a pretty significant player in DoD technology development. So Amanda is sitting in for Annie Bullock, who's off at a conference today, and Annie and I recorded this video that's an overview of Crane's research and activities that they have going on there, and then and so I'm going to start by playing this video we recorded the other day. So we're here with Annie Bullock Yoder, who's with Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division, is going to tell you all about her organization.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today and to talk about our laboratory a little bit. So just to start off, my name is Annie Bullock Yoder, like Jack mentioned. I'm the current acting technology transfer director for our laboratory, and I've been in technology transfer for over 8 years now. My area of specialty is intellectual property, especially building and maintaining Crane's intellectual property portfolio, as well as partnering with folks inside and outside of the lab to further our mission. NSWC Crane, or Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane, is an Echelon 4 command of the Naval Sea Systems Command. And if Jack wants to flip to the next slide, I'll show you where our laboratory is located. There we are, right there, smack in the middle of Indiana. So we are actually one of the only landlocked Navy labs, as you can see from all the different locations there on the coast, the East Coast and the West Coast. Crane is definitely an outlier. However, we are the third largest naval laboratory by size. Our laboratory is over 100 square miles there in southern Indiana. The history of Crane is actually really interesting, and I only have a few minutes here to fill you in on our lab, so I won't go into too much depth on the history of Crane, but needless to say that it was established there to actually purposefully be away from the coasts and to be a location where you couldn't easily access it by plane or submarine or boat or diver. So we have quite a long history. We opened one day, a couple days before Pearl Harbor, and so we've long illustrious history there in southern Indiana serving the warfighters. Jack, you're going to flip to the next slide for me. I have a few quick statistics and facts about our laboratory that might be of interest to folks. We have a large business base at Crane. We have in excess of $1 billion per year with large purchasing capabilities that are provided to DoD end users. We have over, I think these numbers are a little bit outdated. So at this point, we have pretty close to 4,000 NSWC Crane employees. And of those, over half of them are scientists, engineers, and technicians. We have broken our laboratory into three primary mission areas that we focus on. Those are strategic missions, expeditionary warfare, and electronic warfare. I have a couple slides here in a minute that talk about what that means and what technology areas Crane serves in. So Jack, if you want to flip to the next slide. Our mission here is to provide acquisition engineering, in-service engineering, and technical support in sensors, electronics, electronic warfare, and special warfare weapons. We apply component and system-level products and industrial engineering to surface sensors, strategic systems, special warfare devices, and electronic warfare information operation systems. So what that boils down into is those three subject matter areas that I was talking about. And Jack, if you want to flip to the next one, this is a pretty good overview. Oops, sorry, one more. I was going to go directly into the talking about the areas that we serve. So when we talk about strategic missions, what does that mean? What areas of technology are we working in? Where are we innovating in? And I won't read this whole slide to you. Jack is going to be able to provide these out to anybody in the audience that is interested in a better look at our slides today and to capture this information. But one of the primary areas in strategic missions that we focus on is such as trusted electronics and microelectronics, especially with the recent passage of the CHIPS Act. This is very important, not only to the warfighter and the DoD, but it's also very important to Indiana and Indiana's economy. We are a Department of Defense Center for Excellence in Microelectronics, so that's an area that we're always innovating in, always working in. Anti-tamper technologies and trusted supply chain are also very issues that are of great importance to us. We're one of the only in-house printed circuit board labs, so that's an area that we take a lot of pride in as well. Jack, if you want to flip to the next slide, I will point out a few here in expeditionary warfare. So when we talk about expeditionary warfare, we're talking about a lot of special operators. We're talking about specialized munitions and ordnance directly for our warfighters that are in the SOCOM area. So we're talking about small arms, of course. We're talking about electro-optics. So night vision and night vision capabilities, electro-optic sensors are all very important to Crane, as well as just the ability to integrate systems into a cohesive, overarching system. So systems of systems is very, very much an area that's in our wheelhouse. And then like I said, you're all welcome to have these slides so you can go into more depth and take a look at more of those. But Jack, if you want to flip to the next slide, just touch briefly on our last area of expertise at Crane, which is electronic warfare. So this is an area that is very focused on different signals and spectra, control the spectrum, control the fight is the mission area for this. So actually one of the technologies that I'm going to talk with Jack about today came directly out of this, controlling the spectrum, looking at what's out there in the realm of RF, IR, all sorts of different signals out there and what we can do with those.
And real quick, just to comment, it's always impressive when you see the different federal labs, but even the DoD labs, how much depth and expertise and this new technology innovation they have going on.
Absolutely. And with pretty close to 2,000 scientists and engineers, I'm sure you can tell we're doing a lot of innovation and a lot of depth there at Crane. That was just a really high level look. You know, only got a few minutes to talk about Crane. So something we really take a lot of pride in at Crane is our innovation ecosystem. And having built a pretty strategic system within Southern Indiana and in the Midwest in order to collaborate with partners, both industry partners. We partner very closely with universities, not only within the state of Indiana, but across the nation, as well as doing lots of technology transfer and working a lot with entrepreneurs and folks who are interested in transitioning and transferring technology from the federal labs out. Yeah, so if you want to go to the next slide. So I won't talk too much specifically about technology transfer. I think some folks from TechLink are going to talk a little bit more in depth about what technology transfer is and the importance and how you do technology transfer. But for us here at our laboratory, we see technology transfer kind of as an access point. We see technology transfer as the toolbox for partnerships and collaborations to happen. So we enable folks from outside of the lab, in industry, in academia, people who are interested in being entrepreneurs and startups, to reach within the lab to the specialized facilities and resources that we have. So that includes our intellectual property portfolio, but it also includes access to our subject matter experts. It includes access to our specialized facilities, our laboratory equipment that you may want to get your hands on, testing services. And on the flip side of that, it also enables our scientists and engineers to be able to reach outside of the gates of Crane and to work with people in industry, to work with people in academia who are at the forefront of their fields. So technology transfer to us is very essential to meeting our mission and making sure that we're at the forefront of what the next best thing is.
And innovation, you know, whether or not it's going on inside the lab or outside with entrepreneurs, you know, the important parts of innovation is working with the spectrum, you know, of diverse ideas. And as I always quote Bill Joy, who invented Unix, he had Joy's law. No matter who you are, most of the smart people work for somebody else. So you're taking advantage of that, and whether you're inside the lab or especially if you're an entrepreneur and you connect with people in the lab is a great opportunity.
Yeah. So a couple of notes about if you want to move back, I'll just touch briefly on a couple notes on these metrics that are here on the slides. PRADAs, PIAs, WFPP, EPA, PLA, all of those are different types of technology transfer agreements, which I think will be touched on a little bit later on. But I just wanted to show you the depth and the breadth of our portfolio. And again, these numbers are slightly out of date. At this point right now, we actually have 25 active patent license agreements, and we have over, that CRADA number is definitely wrong. We have over 285 active CRADAs. So these slides are out of date, but we have a large number of agreements of all different types with academic institutions those are through education partnership agreements, EPAs, work for private party. A lot of those are like testing services. So we have a lot of different types of agreements and a lot of different ways that we can partner with folks. And we're always looking for new partners and new ways to work together with folks outside of our gates.
Next.
Yes, please. So this is just a look at some of our different university partnerships and how we might work with folks outside of our gates. PhD fellowships, SMART is a scholarship program. We have all sorts of different internship type programs. If you know somebody who's a high school student or a college student, I'm a strong believer in the importance of internships, especially while you're trying to figure out where you might want to go with your career. So please do pass along that the NEAT internships and the CAP internships. So CAP is for the high school kids, NEAT is for the college students. Please pass along that the deadlines for those internships are around the November-December timeframe. So if you know of any, please do feel free to reach out and I can get you some more information about that, or please feel free to tell them about that, tell them to go apply for that. Micro grants, temporary faculty hires, cooperative research and development agreements, education partner agreements. This is just a look at how we might work with more of our university partners. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So I'm pretty much at the end of my slide deck that I wanted to fill you all in on today. Just a very high look at Crane, very high look at the kind of work that we do here, as well as just a brief touch on the importance of technology transfer, the importance of working with our partners, both in industry and academia. So I just wanted to leave you with this one final slide talking about Crane department, Crane, NSWC Crane. Please, if anybody has further questions, you want to dive in a little bit more, you have more questions about the history of Crane or anything about our technology transfer program, please feel free to reach out to myself. Jack has my contact information on some of his slides, so please feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to jump on the phone and talk to you some more.
Okay, thank you, Annie.
Okay, so that was the Crane presentation, and I believe David Scott is going to do a quick presentation on TechLink.
That sounds great. Thank you all for having me. I'm going to see if I can get my slides queued up, and we'll go from there. As I do this, please make this as interactive as we can. I'd love to have anyone, interrupt me as I'm going through the slides that I'm going to present. I'll probably take about 5 minutes. Can you all confirm that you can see my slides?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep, looking good.
Fantastic. All right, so I work for an organization called TechLink. One of my colleagues, Derek, is also on the call here today with me as well. And I'm going to talk about how we can help support both the lab, Navy Crane, and others in partnering with the folks on this call to access the technology that these labs are kind of have available to spin out of their lab. And this is a pretty significant activity for us. We have part of our team that does a study every couple of years, and this is just kind of a highlight of you just heard a little bit about the activities that Crane is doing to spin tech out. It's a very significant impact on the U.S. economy, almost $70 billion of impact over the last number of years through licensing technology out of all of the DoD labs and the VA labs that we represent. So it's really a significant opportunity for companies to access these technologies that we have available from Crane and elsewhere. This side is a little bit about us as TechLink. You can see our URL if you want to go there. You're welcome to do that. I've dropped my LinkedIn into the chat. If you want to connect with me, you can do that. But TechLink basically is a partnership intermediary for the DoD. We were the first one of these in the country back in the late 90s. We're involved with about 80 to 90% of all the tech transfer activity that flows through and out of the DoD labs each year. And the stats at the bottom of the screen, you can see kind of the actual economic impact of this. Lots of jobs get created through this effort, $5 billion in sales to the military and over $30 billion in new product sales as a result of these tech transfer spin out activities. This next slide, and please stop me if you have any questions. This next slide kind of highlights where we sit in the evolution of a piece of technology. So the folks at Crane, and you'll do all this basic research at all the other labs. They identify things that might be valuable. They disclose them to folks on the base to decide what to evaluate them and decide, hey, has this got commercial or military application? If it does, they proceed forward to protecting the IP. Often that looks like a patent filing. And then, once it gets filed, that's where kind of TechLink starts to play, is in between these, two brackets of orange. So how do you take this technology and commercialize it? That's our primary role, is try to help identify licensees and then out license it from the lab. Sometimes we're involved with just a solo founder and we help them, jump through the steps, or at least advise them on how to jump through the steps to create a company. Oftentimes immediately after either they license it or they create the company, there's capital raise that happens, and how do you go out and scale it up? So we provide not only some facilitation around getting the licensing deal done to get the technology from the lab, the mind, out into the marketplace, but then we also can provide certain companies with some post-license support to help sure that they're successful once the license gets done. Any questions so far? All right, I'll just keep plugging away. So this next slide is just going to highlight some examples of the technologies that are available on our website. We have about 100 different labs we support, over 6,500 technologies. I know, this group is focused on drone and counter drone. So this is just a quick list of the types of things that are available on our website. I think we're going to dive into a little bit more detail on a couple of them. But you can see a pretty broad variety from, drone, counter drone munitions to RF approaches, also things to control drones like flight control, ground control software, and things like that. So if you're in the drone space and are interested in things drone, we have tons and tons of technology related to drone and counter drone that we could help you access and license. The next slide here is just sort of a quick summary of how to try to do this. So if you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Derek, or the folks at Crane. Really, my approach to this is, listening to what problem you're trying to solve. So for this, I just sort of outlined, the problem might be, hey, we need better drone projectiles for both mounted and dismounted mission sets, because we've identified that as a key problem. You come to us with that type of a problem you're trying to solve, we'll go back and find what we have in the repertoire, maybe a couple of munitions that fit the bill, and then we'd work with you to try to figure out whether the best approach is to go for a patent license agreement, to go for a cooperative research and development agreement called a CRADA, or to go after both of them kind of at the same time. So we can kind of help you and advise you on the right path to move forward doing that type of activity. And that's really the end of the presentation, the quick overview I wanted to give you. If you've got questions, please feel free to ask me. Like I said, LinkedIn Connect is in the chat. There's a QR code. If you want to scan that, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and there is my email address if you want to shoot me an email to follow up that way. So very excited to be here, and looking forward to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you, David. So let's see. Now we're going to jump into the technology. So I'm going to first do a couple slides. You can see this presentation, right? On just because as I looked at all of these things, there's a very common problem set. Basically, UAS threats, because I can run down to Best Buy and buy a very, very capable vehicle that can do a lot of things. Not all of them, are legal or not dangerous. So that threat grows, and some of it can vary from, just smuggling things into a prison or across a line, to actually very malicious activities in a crowded event or something like that. The challenge is these things are small targets, can be difficult to detect. The other is you can't necessarily, if they are very malicious, you don't want to just shoot them down, because that can cause a lot more collateral damage. So you've got to consider what challenge you're trying to address there. The other thing here is, on a lot of cases, the government's going to be the market, because the current laws limit authority to operate and do some of these counter UAS measures and mitigation. I'm not going to go into that today because that's actually a much longer even description. I can send you some links and some information if you're very much interested in it. But regardless, government markets can be pretty big, and there's a different way to approach things. Both Annie and Amanda, who's in for Annie today, and David can have kind of alluded to that. And there's a lot of ways to go approach that. So if you want to know more as you go through that, we can talk to you. I can help fill you in too. And the other thing is that kind of from a document, I should have quoted it here. You kind of the basic counter UAS operations. I mean, you can have basic ground-based, fixed, or mobile. You can have handheld, and what you need to do is track and identify, the threats. A lot of there's interdiction and mitigation through jamming and spoofing or interfering with the data collection, and then even recovery. And that's for, if you have something more dangerous that you need to go move so it doesn't fall on people or crowds or anything like that. Having said that, we can finally jump into, let's see, let me get to there. The first technology, which is called the STARS Drone Integrated Acquisition Tracker. And this is a nice technology. Let's see. Developed by Crane. It's ground-based, and it identifies and able to track drones via their RF signature. And they also may have potential to jam, or actually do have some potential to jam and control. But the basic capability at this point is to track them. And what it does is it uses antenna arrays. You can mount them on gimbal platforms to detect the RF signals that are coming out from the commercial drones. And the way the arrays are set up, and these are fairly commercially available antennas, and then they have a way they process it, and that's kind of their secret sauce to all this stuff, that can track and identify the position, of the drones, probably some of the signature of what is the type of drone. And then they have a software system that shows you and displays that. It's on a GUI and can be used on or integrated into other applications. It can detect through the frequencies from C2's command and control, or telemetry and video, and not quite yet, but they should be able to also get encrypted or unencrypted. And the antennas are commercially available. One quick note, they also don't have the gimbal platform, but for those of you who were at the previous session, you may remember that NASA Armstrong has almost a ready to license gimbal platform that's mobile, and they have a lot of documentation. It's fairly mature technology. The video feed itself being intercepted, and the ability to jam the command and control is effort that is to be accomplished. So they have to work on that, and that would be something that you can work further with them on. But its ability to identify and track and find the location of the drones has been demonstrated, and they have data and they have video that goes along with that. And the nice thing about that is it starts with the detection of drones, in the sensitive or unauthorized. And so the drone presence, and you can do that, without mitigation. That's a lot easier to get through because that means you may not necessarily all these may not be government customers and law enforcement customers. If you're just trying to track where things are going, say around a prison or around a sensitive area, you can see that. But it also allows the opportunity for you to develop other functions and grow into this market as counter UAS grows. All of these, they don't make solid commitments, but most all of these, as you kind of grow and learn by them, can present opportunities with the Navy or Department of Defense. I say those two, but it's also DHS and other areas too. Let's see. So real quick, the patent, it was patented and assigned to the Navy. You can license this. This is available. The fees are negotiable. The Navy researchers do have a lot of interest in collaborating with licensees. The way a lot of these projects work, they had some basic seed funding to do the basic groundwork, and then they've got to find a customer, both internal or external and internal, to go continue that. And so they are interested in looking at further development. This is a fairly developed system across a system. There's still pieces that could be added on. There's system specification documents available. The base elements have been demonstrated, and as David said, you can talk to Crane, or you can also talk to TechLink, and they can guide you through those services. For further information, you can contact Annie, or it has Derek, and I did not get David's contact information on here, but I can get that. You'll see it actually on another slide later on. That is all for that one. Any questions or comments or thoughts on that anybody has? Let me see. Let me look at the chat, and please speak up if you have a question.
This is Phil. I had a kind of question. Maybe it's for David, but so if I were running a small general aviation airport and I wanted to install, or I was anticipating that it would be valuable to have a counter UAS system, and what's been described, which is really an eye-opener, all these resources, is there some way to plunge into these and determine sort of the state, identify what might be viewed as really breaking loose a technology that's going to be particularly useful? Maybe it's advanced in the sense that, well, now it's not a 2-year-old technology. It's really coming forward with some new elements. So how do I do my research, I guess, to understand what's out there in the market and to get something that's really going to be cutting edge for my needs? Does that that's quite a scenario there, but that's what I'm wondering about.
David or Amanda, you
how to research all this.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. So, I mean, I think the key question is, what problem are you trying to solve, right? Exactly. And we can go in and try to figure out what in the portfolio we have might solve that problem. That'd be one approach to try to take. So if you want this, drone tracker and you're into tracking drones, then this might be the right tech. But if you're passionate about another element of drone and anti-drone, then talk to us and let us figure out exactly what your your passion is, and then let's see what we've got that might help you in that direction. But the thrust of your question, if I understood it correctly, is really, where is the gold in all of this? Like, are there ones that are really, really valuable? And my take on that personally is, it's kind of up to the entrepreneur or the company to decide what it views as valuable. You know, we don't typically go do a huge assessment on, you know, the other technologies that other folks may have created that are around, you know, a particular technology, but that there are plenty of services out there that can do that. If you want to evaluate what else is being patented in this particular area or field, you can just go do that kind of research. We can certainly point you in directions to tools that might be helpful.
Great.
If that would be what you want to do. But to me, it's really about finding the identifying the problem you're after, and then seeing what we've got that would help be a complete solution or pieces of that solution.
And
David, thanks for tying that down.
yeah, and so
Good answer.
if I can jump into, as I look through this, DHS actually has some resources to help you find and help you describe. That's where I've got some of the charts on the problems on, you know, what factors you need to look at and how much you need to weight things and how do they apply to different situations. DHS and FAA to a degree are both active in there, and there are, you know, a couple other agencies that are not part of DoD, so they're kind of outside Crane and TechLink, although there's a lot of really great stuff there. So sometimes with the problem customer you're describing may fit some of the DHS and FAA folks more. Like I said, we can all, you know, between David and all of us, Annie and all, we can have those discussions and work that out.
Thank you. Very good answers.
Any other thoughts or questions? Nope. Okay, so we will go to the next one, which is this one. It's always interesting with sometimes with technologies that come out of this is how they identify it. Basically, this is kind of identified as the remotely operated vehicle and data collection system platform. And so this is a kind of a drone seeking drone where you have your friendly drone that has electronics on board that can pick up. It does a lot with the antennas did on the previous one, and it detects what it is, but it flies up and can kind of jam and take control of a rogue drone. This one was, let's see, I get these charts right. Yeah. So this one is you could take control, the link, and goes through it, and then the system can also, the advantage of it is also if for whatever reason you want to shadow this other drone and to see what's going on and what it's collecting and sending back, it helps in that. A lot of the components for the system are commercially available. And the core of the system, as it says, is Linux based. It can gather the information on a number of different things, video, they're sensing, you know, GPS coordinates, and whatever, you know, intrusion software it may be operating. And then it potentially has scripts to jam or hack this. Now on this particular one, as it turned out, we dig through there, the inventor has gone off to start his own company in something not this subject, as I understand it. And so the research on this kind of held up. They don't have they did some basic capability, but it's not developed. But my understanding is they are still, the Crane is still interested in developing it, and the inventor you can probably get a hold of, and you could possibly work with them commercially. This is probably one that very much fits into just government law enforcement type markets for an application. And it has a little more attack capability. And we'll see that more and more as we go through there. You can still license this from the Navy. And there's potential to work with researchers. The components are available. I'm sorry, I spelled wrong. And software is an open source. This is a little more unproven, as it said, but the inventor would may be interested in participating in, and they're outside of the government, so you don't have that kind of issues, although there's still some sort of conflicts, but you got to get into the discussion to sort that out. So more information, contact Annie at Crane, or Derek or David. And again, we'll add David's contact information here in a minute. Any questions on this one? None? Having said that, we'll go to the next opportunity. And these next two are very similar. So I included two of them in here. And what they do is, in this case, in both cases coming up here, you have the capability of a drone that goes out and captures another drone. In this first one, we'll go through the net that it captures. It could capture something more than just a drone. It can capture something driving or operate, floating on the surface or something like that. And then it uses an RF isolating retrieval, so it can isolate and keep the transmissions in or out of the drone, separated and isolated. This is from the Air Force Research Lab Information Directorate up in Rome, New York. And so David and there's David's contact information, and Derek or at TechLink can represent through that. Basically, we have diagrams. And I added the diagrams because between this one and the next one, simple amount of words were kind of inadequate. You have to have a picture. So this one has this RF containment cage as a net that's thrown over and then captures it in the cage and transports it. And then it still can also take electronic control over the intruder. Let's see. Of course, that one it avoids a destructive use to disable a drone, because just shooting a drone out of the sky or whatever causes collateral damage, especially if that drone is equipped to do something nasty. The nice thing about this is it can halt that drone from doing things without interfering with other electronic systems, which may be critical around airports, something that might feed to Phil's question earlier. And it is applicable to sea, land, or air UAS. The maturity, David, I don't know if you have any information on that. You there?
I am. I realized I was on mute. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any on this particular one. You know, if anyone is interested in this particular one, we can reach out to the lab and learn a little bit more about sort of its technology readiness level. Typically, you know, stuff that ends up on our website. And is everyone on this panel probably familiar with TRL shorthand? So these are this is probably, my guess would be TRL 3 or 4, meaning that there's probably a functioning prototype that was put together, but that's not not necessarily always the case.
And it doesn't say in there, and I don't know if you have any of that background information, but that's something else, is it doesn't, I mean, this may be an expansion of, say, the first system to identify the presence of the drone and track it, and then you dispatch this this RF isolating net drone to go capture the intruder. So it, in and of itself, it doesn't have that ability, from what I could tell, to identify the presence of the drone. It goes just after it knows it's there, and so you
Right.
start with that other ground basic capability and build from there.
Yeah. What I can tell you about this, just looking at the patent number for this one, is it's a fairly recent technology, which is good if you're going to license it. It looks like the patent issued in 2019. So, you know, that, yeah, there, you've got it right there. So,
Yeah, that's there. And that's one of our criteria, is at least to have 10 years of runway in front of you.
yeah, that can be an important thing. I mean, obviously, the more recent it is, you know, that the folks at the lab have been working on it somewhat recently. Maybe the inventor is still there. Maybe they're still working on this. So that can make a collaboration better.
Yeah. Okay. And then again, giving this, you know, given that it's actually, you know, getting more physical and intervening to capture the drone, that really starts getting into you are having to sell to government markets, which could be DoD or DHS type markets, for to stop these intruders, because there are laws against anybody cavalierly, you know, grabbing one of these things. And for information, again, we mentioned David and Derek at TechLink, and there's their information.
Jack, we had one question in the chat.
Okay.
It was, is the RF net only for disrupting RF signals, or does it also kind of physically entangle the drone?
The way, you know, that's a good question for the inventors. The way, everything I read, it meant both.
Yeah,
But I
it
don't know
would
if
be
David
for
has any
both.
more.
I mean, I if you're going to do RF, and I haven't read this patent, so full disclosure, this is just a hunch, but this has got to be metal mesh that's blocking the RF. And so if you've got a metal net falling on top of quadcopter blades, it's gonna have an impact, at least on.
Yeah, it is. It's like, it's going to halt this thing, and the metal net is, you know, it's like a Gaussian shield that, you know, prevents the transmission. So first you get it to where it's not transmitting, but somehow you got to contain it and go from there. So that's probably a bit of a carry-on question there, but I don't know if that helped answer it. Any more questions? Okay, we go to the last one. You have one? Now, the last one is a lot like, the final one is a lot like the last one. Let's say it that way. So it's a drone delivered, basically a net, even the description's in there. This is from the Air Force Academy, researchers at the Air Force Academy, and calls it a capturing device. There's some distinguishing features which we'll get to in just a second here. But anyway, it basically is still a net. It doesn't describe an RF type feature. I would think right off, you may have some differences the way this works, which is basically you have a larger net that comes up and then quickly wraps around the drone, and you can either you can pull it in and drag it off with the existing your delivery drone, or it can actually just throw the whole net on it and throw it on the ground, basically. And so you can see that it's a capture net. The patent, the technology never actually describes it as a net, but you can see the pictures and the way they go through there, and that all makes sense. Let's see, trying to think if there's any other points here. And so both of those embodiments are kind of captured in this patent and in this technology. Again, this avoids the use of a destructive force to disable the drone, and that you don't have the collateral damage. You also, move it off. It should, so it doesn't, it in and of itself, it's not, so the second one, the drone that was out seeking a drone, has its own kind of electronic warfare, and there's probably issues when trying to operate that around an airport. Whereas if you can just capture this thing and even, let it drop to the ground, that would theoretically neutralize it. And then you have to go kind of work through all that testing to figure that out. But anyway, and likewise, I think the maturity, I don't know, David, if you have any more information on the maturity on this one?
Nope, kind of the same answer as I gave before.
Yeah, that's what I would expect. Is usually you have some, and then you, depending on how much more they worked on it and thought about it and everything else, you may get more data and everything else.
Yeah, and typically, and I'll kind of add to why we don't necessarily know the precise answer, is we try to be a very light touch on our friends at the lab.
Yeah,
we're an independent partner, and we're here to support their activities. And, we made the conscious decision to not overly pester the inventors or the tech transfer offices, the ORDA, at the lab, to try to, get every technology and figure out exactly what it is. But when we get a serious inquiry from a qualified lead, at that point, we'll go back and try to really figure out what's there for the prospective licensee. And so if any of you are interested in any of these technologies, reach out to me, reach out to Derek, and we can find the answer for you in terms of exactly how far along is this, what's its TRL level, what data package would be available if you did license it, and those kind of things.
and at that point too, if you're getting that interested, it's good to then schedule more of a conversation with the inventor and get into detail, because then you're kind of exploring what are the little specifics of the capability, right?
Yeah, and oftentimes, somebody, let's just use this one as an example. You might come in and say, listen, we're building something similar. Can we collaborate with you and enter into a CRADA with the lab to advance their tech and your tech at the same time? And when you do that, you can kind of see their needs and their use case and why they're approaching it that way, which can be really helpful as a commercial business outside of the fence, so to speak, and then move into licensing it. Or sometimes people will license it and enter into a CRADA kind of at the same time to try to work with the lab and have the ability to use that technology out in the commercial space for, if you want to sell to law enforcement, you want to sell to foreign governments as available, those kind of things. So we can help you with all that.
Yes, and as you can see, kind of like David alluded to, this is even fresher patent, was just issued earlier this year. And it's available for license. One of the nice things to jump in, and was talking to Annie, but and David can tell you, in DoD, developing DoD technologies, if you get there, they have a lot of I don't know what they call it, tech bridge type activities, where you can engage warfighters, sometimes put the technology in the hand of the warfighter, so you can, because what they want to see is you're developing an effective solution. And of course, as somebody trying to market it, you want to develop an effective solution. So it allows you the opportunity to talk with people that will use it, and can give you, you know, what are the conditions, constraints, or what works, what doesn't work, and things like that. So you can do your development and keep it focused there.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll mention, and I don't think we've really touched on this, is when you do a license, the cost of accessing the technology it's basically free as compared to the amount of money that was spent developing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak to a tech that's not drone related, but I've got one in my hand. So this is a magic crayon developed by a company in Dayton after licensing technology out of the Air Force. The Air Force had spent about 2 years and $2 million converting the chemistry and the glow sticks we all put on our kids at Halloween into a crayon that you can write with. You can only see the writing while you're wearing military spec night vision goggles. The company accessed this $2 million of R&D for about a $1,500 upfront licensing fee and a very small, I think it was 2% royalty rate or something like that, going forward on all non-government sales. So that the price, you know, so you're getting $2 million of the R&D for $2,000. It's just kind of almost a no-brainer. I don't know the price point and how much is spent on all the ones that have been showcased today, but you can be pretty confident that the folks inside defense that have been doing this spent a lot of time and energy honing this to get it to the point that it's at. And so to grab it from this point on this patent that was just filed and then move it forward is going to be a huge time and cost savings, almost certainly, to whoever would pick this technology up, or any of these for that matter.
And in addition, you also have, you know, a relationship with that researcher for going forward. Okay, and so let's see if we get to, I think we're at about at the end here. Yeah, so for that, if you have any information, again, you can contact David or Derek at that. And let's see, trying to think if we have anything else. I think this is it. I think this is kind of the end of the show for today. I don't know. Let's see, for Amanda and David, if you want to say any more about contacting your offices, you have your emails there, right? And I have David and Derek, so you don't have Amanda's up, but you can contact Annie in this case.
Yep, I can put mine in chat as well. Thanks, guys. This has been a really good event, and please feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you need.
Certainly, yeah. And if you saw, based on the things either brought up by David about DoD in general, or in Annie's presentation about Crane in general, please reach out and talk about that. Just kind of a preliminary heads up, we'll have another event similar to this in the end of September. That appears we're going to do with the University of Minnesota, and that's going to be on multispectral, hyperspectral precision agriculture applications. Just a teaser at that point. But anyway, and with that, I believe we are all done. Anything else from Craig?
No, nothing for me. That was very interesting. Thanks for putting that together, Jack, and thanks for the Tech Link and Crane team for participating. I know it's a lot of prep time, so we appreciate you guys doing that. Yeah, and Jack mentioned, feel free to shoot those folks an email for further questions. I know after the last session, we had some good feedback from, and if you just have curiosity questions, they're happy to answer those. So, yep, that's all I got.
And if you need help, you can also start with us too, if you need help, because
Sure.
then we can navigate through there.
Yeah, I love curiosity questions. So don't feel like you're going to be a bother if you shoot me an email and say, hey, I just want to pick your brain on an idea or something I'm thinking about. I spend a lot of my time personally working with entrepreneurs and startup companies that are new to even thinking about this, trying to just explore all the possibilities. And I'm happy to sit down and have one-on-ones with each one of you if that's of interest. So just shoot me an email or connect via LinkedIn. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you see that as people have solutions and they're trying to fine tune, you know, what problem and what market problem they're trying to address, and those are good conversations to have. We get those folks there. So, and with that, I think we are done.
Well, thank you, Jack.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks
Greg.
everybody for attending.
Yeah, thanks everybody for attending today.
Thanks.
Have a good day and a good Labor Day.